All around the world recently, very powerful people have been talking about just that power. But this time it's of the electricity variety. And some of the language that they've been using is a lot a bit concerning if you're paying any attention here. If you're like me, you just want to be able to flip on the switch, keep the AC where you like it, and then you pay for your power bill, and all the rest is well and good. But listen to some of the language that's being used. This is the president of the European Union. You're going to hear a phrase she says that you might find familiar.
And this is what is expensive, because in these peak demands, the expensive gas comes into the market. So what we have to do is flatten the curve and avoid the peak demands. We will propose a mandatory target for reducing electricity use at peak hours.
All right, so now we got to flatten the curve on electricity. All right, this is where we're going to focus our energy. We're going to flatten the curve just like we did for the pandemic, but this time electricity from no less than the president of the European Union, talking about electricity and consumers taking too much. In fact, if you live in California, even though you pay incredibly high taxes, they're not using those to rebuild a proper energy grid or to add nuclear power, which might be a genius idea. They're sending out alerts like this instead. This says Cal OES, conserve energy now to protect public health and safety. Extreme heat is straining the state energy grid. Power interruptions may occur unless you take action. It's on you, Californians, not these politicians, right? Turn off or reduce non-essential power if health allows now until 9 p.m. And they even give you handy dandy little lists like this. Here are things you can do. Don't do your dishes. I know you got to work tomorrow, but forget about that laundry. You got that thermostat? Let's put it up to 78 degrees and just start unplugging everything you can find to bring all the power consumption down. Some of the suggestions are even more ridiculous, like this headline from the Sacramento Bee. Thermostats in California state buildings will go to 78 degrees and then 85 degrees to save power. I mean, you might as well be outside at that point. 85 degrees, quite hot. It's so hot, in fact, that other California messaging tells you make sure you stay indoors between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Just when you go inside, don't go too low with that AC. Here's the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, talking about what you can do.
Everyone has to do their part to help step up for just a few more days. Individuals, the state, industries, business, all doing their part to help reduce strain on the grid. Now, here's specifically what you can do. In the early morning hours, particularly tomorrow and the next day or so, pre-cool your home. Run your air conditioning earlier in the day when more power is available. And we encourage you to close your windows and blinds to keep your home cool as well.
All right, solid advice. All we have to do is turn the AC down way cold, though aren't we just kind of shifting that power consumption in this case? We're just shifting it over a little bit, and maybe we'll still have the problem over there.
And today and tomorrow afternoon, after 4 p.m., in particular 4 p.m., please turn your thermostat up to 78 degrees or higher.
All right, then you're going to be nice and toasty after that. But still, even with all this, people in the Bay Area were dealing with some pretty significant outages. Thousands of people had no power and no AC in their homes. And the current capacity I'm looking at right now live on the energy website for CAISO.com is pretty far up there. The capacity is 59,000 megawatts. So let's kind of compare this to some other things that we're hearing out there. First of all, back to Governor Newsom of California.
That's the world we're living in. None of that, again, necessarily surprises any of you. The question is, what are we going to do about it? How can we maintain our resilient mindset? How can we work our way through these things? And how can we thrive, not just survive, in an era of such extremes?
All right, a lot is being talked about extremes. Climate change is certainly something that a lot of people are focusing on out there. And it is about 99 degrees in Los Angeles today, and some other cities in California peaking over 100. But that's not unheard of, even though this heat wave is lasting a little longer than they generally do, especially in September. If you flash back to 1980 right here, you'll see there were days at the end of September where it was 109 degrees. So I imagine on those days, even though this was in the 80s and there was probably less air conditioners, there's still a lot of people dealing with excessive temperatures. So if it's not just that, what the hell's going on here? And is this going to get worse? Well, there's somebody pointing out something very interesting. The Associated Press says a record heat wave put California in a fossil fuel conundrum. The state has had to rely more heavily on natural gas to produce electricity and avoid power outages, while Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom's administration moves toward the ending the use of oil and gas. So they're having to use more oil and gas, which they're trying to stop doing, but they don't have any other choice because the power grid sucks in California, as it does in places all over the country, and nobody seems to have a desire to build safe and effective nuclear power plants. In fact, California was just about to shut down their last one, yet here we are. And yet we have stories as recently as a week ago of a push for stuff like this. The end of gas-powered vehicles and all electric vehicles in California by 2035. And if California goes that way, isn't everybody going to go that way?
It's a multi-phase plan that would require 35% of new cars to be powered by electricity or hydrogen by the year 2026, 51% by 2028, and 100% by 2035.
So by 2035, with this garbage power grid, we're going to have all these Californians using the power grid even more to charge their electric vehicles. This is from evanex.com, and they say to charge a Tesla, the average Tesla battery, you need about 50,000 watts of energy, 50,000 kilowatt hours of energy, excuse me. With 39.35 million people in California, we're talking about some big numbers. It would seem to me that about 1 million Californians could crash the grid alone just charging their electric vehicles when they got home from work. And yet, California is asking those very same residents not to charge electric vehicles. This is after they announced that ban, as you can see. So where do we go from here? Now we're being told to flatten the curve on our energy use. We're being told that this is just the beginning of what you're going to see in some of these places. Expect these rolling blackouts. What do we do with this? And how can you have these policies that seem to just counteract each other entirely? Hey, we won't go with nuclear power, but we have too much pressure on our grid, so we have to go with these sources. And then we want everybody to have electric cars, but that will overwhelm the grid again. And then we don't want to invest in the grid because we don't have enough money. The whole thing is a cluster F that seems to be falling in on itself in states like California and maybe in other places around the world. Let me know what you think is going to happen next. Let me know your experience in the comments. Facebook.com/The News Junkie. Hit that follow button. YouTube.com/The News Junkie. Hit subscribe for videos just like this every single week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.